Hey everyone, today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on these Hero Factory books. I haven't really heard anybody talking about these books, and I think it might be because they're relatively obscure. I looked them up on Amazon and I couldn't really find one for sale, and on eBay they're relatively obscure too. You can still buy them on eBay for relatively cheap, but I think it'd be kind of hard to track all five of the books down. These books are nothing like the movies, they're actually consistent throughout the whole length of Hero Factory, all of the different movies and some of the comic strips that they posted and everything were pretty inconsistent to the lore, what little lore we actually had. And these books are actually kind of refreshing because they actually do stay consistent. They're not the best, but the writer didn't have much to go off of. Greg Farsty also wrote these books, just like the Bionicle ones. I don't know much about Bionicle lore, but I do know that it goes pretty deep and it's a lot better than anything Hero Factory has to offer. But just I don't think Greg Farsty was given much in the way of creativity with Hero Factory. He really didn't have much to go off of. The Doom box was alright. It was definitely my least favorite, but it wasn't a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. I did enjoy it, but not as much as the others. It followed Core Hunter. He was really the main villain, and it was a relatively good book. Now, the Doom box was kind of what he was searching for. It was a weapon, and I don't remember the story that well because it's been a few years, but if I remember right, it was kind of an underwhelming story, if I remember correctly. It was better than most kids' books, I will give it that, but it wasn't overly interesting, at least to me at the time. It wasn't interesting. Legion of Darkness was a prequel, and it was really interesting because it had Stormer, Von Ness, and Thresher all working side by side because that was before Von Ness turned. Unfortunately, we never really got to see that in any of the movies, and I'm probably glad that we didn't because I'm sure the movies would have done it way worse. I enjoyed this book because it was like a different spin on the breakout story, and it was done way better. Collision Course was by far my favorite. I think it was just done a lot better. It followed a ship that I believe went off course after Brains attacked it, and the Brains were done way better in the books. They were one big consciousness, and that was a lot cooler. In the movies, they kind of seemed like they were just mindless. And the story was better in this book. I feel like it was more interesting. The fights in these books were never that great, but at least they tried. But it is kind of hard to do good fights in books, or at least in a kid's book, because they can't spend pages doing fights, especially when the pages are this short. The font is very spaced. These pages are not long at all. I read one of these in one sitting. Robot Rampage was also pretty good. It started with Stringer getting called to a planet, and he went radio silent, and so some of the other heroes had to be sent after him, and it wound up that there were a bunch of brains controlling everybody at that planet because it was just a complete dump after the brains took over. And they found out that there were actually people still underground making a huge weapon that could destroy planets. So basically a Death Star. It was pretty cool. I like this book. It was definitely better than Legion of Darkness and Doombox. Last but not least, Mirror World. This book begins with Zeb starting a machine that backfires and sends Stormer into an alternate dimension where Von Nebula rules a whole planet, and he has like a criminal empire where all of the other villains from 4.0 roll with him, but he's still the leader, and everybody's scared of him. It's a really cool book. Stormer does wind up winning in the end, of course, and he gets sent back to his original reality. I liked this book a lot. It was definitely better than the first two, and I would say it is my second favorite, just because viewing the other options, it was more interesting than some of the others. This book series is pretty good. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I don't think it really stands a chance up next to Bionicle lore, but it is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. these books gave Hero Factory good lore, as long as you discount the movies, because these are nothing like the movies. If you count the movies as canon, then you're not going to like the books, because they contradict the movies, I would say. They definitely add lore, and it seems like they kind of take some out that the movies tried to insert. I liked these books overall. I definitely think that if you're interested in Hero Factory lore, then you should read these books, because they're really the only thing you have if you're interested in Hero Factory lore. Overall, this is a pretty solid series. Greg Farsty did a lot of good with what little he had to work with. And that's really all I have to say. As always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos.